is what
I grew up in a family where my dad, and I've said this before when I've spoken to Federalist Society events, I grew up in a family where my dad was a conservative Republican and my mom was a liberal Democrat. They let me take any position I wanted as long as I could defend it. Now, it turned out I later learned that my mom was the smarter person, but I'm actually not sure how they would come down on the issues before us today, because I agree with what Kim Colby just said about the creation of an unfortunate division on religious lines here that's going on in the culture today. But when RFRA was passed, it was a broad coalition. I'm going to come back to that in a moment, coming from the very left and to the very right. There was an exception there, which I'll note later. I don't really think that a lot of these religion issues boil down as nicely as people would like to make them and characterize them into left-right. For example, Doug Laycock was the chief lawyer for Hobby Lobby, but he was also the chief lawyer arguing that the prayer that was upheld in Town of Greece versus Galloway was unconstitutional. You can have commitments to religion that come out in different ways depending on the context, and it really isn't as neat as people like to think. Kim said it right. The basic issue in Hobby Lobby was whether or not we were going to return to the pre-Smith regime cases, or whether or not the RFRA was going to be interpreted as giving more power to free exercise than it existed under the pre-Smith cases. When Smith was decided, there was this very strong blowback. There were a few people who said that Smith was right. I was one of them. I have my creds here. When I defend what's going on later on, I can say I defended it way back then. Last year I spoke to ACS and I said, this is what you guys asked for. So don't start complaining about a law like RFRA. But the reason why I support Smith, and which I'll get to later on, is that Smith, Justice Scalia's opinion, showed why the compelling interest test couldn't work for any length of time, and that's been the experience both under RFRA and the experience under the Free Exercise Clause. And the prediction that I'm going to make is that it's going to be very difficult to keep that level of protection of religion provided in Hobby Lobby going for any length of time, just because of the dynamics that are involved with enforcing it.